Taking a peek at the infotainment system inside of the Mercedes GLC 350e. Now, this is the only infotainment that you're going to find inside of the ride. It's got factory navigation and a bunch of other features. So let's dive in. I'll show you what you need to know. So you've got this, which is going to be for your navigation. You've got a little tab on the top, so if you swipe down, that's going to get you to a series of quick launch functions. So you can toggle the head-up display on or off, turn off your stability control. You can raise the vehicle up as well, which is useful if you're going off-road. The vehicle also does have a manual shifting mode. You are going to find paddle shifters inside of the ride, so it's your minus on the left-hand side, plus on the right-hand side, so you can drop gears if you'd like to in order to gain some speed to launch you forward. But if you've never used paddle shifters before and you're not sure how they work, check down in the description of this video for an explanation on how you can use them and when you want to use them. There's downhill brake control, your park sensing system, so as you get closer to obstacles, it can beep at you. There's interior protection, so it's going to utilize all of the sensors inside the vehicle for an alarm. Same idea with your towaway alarm, so if your vehicle's locked and the vehicle's getting towed, you're going to get a notification letting you know that the vehicle's being towed. And then a series of all settings, which we'll dive into as we get further into the screen. Along the top, you've got some additional options here, so your 5G connection along with your current time, but you can go through all of these options here. And then you've got your climate control settings that are baked right into the bottom of the screen. You can easily adjust out your climate this way. One nice thing is that you can also use the voice command prompt, so on the steering wheel there, or by saying, "Hey Mercedes," in order to activate your prompt. And then you'd be able to do things like change songs, radio stations, navigate using your voice. You can even adjust climate control using your voice instead. But all of your climate settings are baked right into the screen here. You've got an advanced climate menu, so do you want to have it going to your windshield face feet, some sort of combination. If the passenger side was different than the driver, you can sync it back up from there. There are air quality options as well, so there is a refresh mode available. And then there's also your pre-entry climate control. So that's when you get into departure times, which we'll cover off as we get deeper into the hybrid version of the screen there, so the hybrid option. But what that's going to do is it's going to give you the flexibility of preconditioning the cabin. So rather than using the battery or using the gas as you start, you essentially precondition the cabin, and then the car is going to be warm or cold for you based off of your set time. Let's dive into navigation first. If you hit that icon along the very top, you can look at all of your previous destinations, gas stations, look at parking, routes, and things like that. So you can see different options that are available for either your route or for charging, so setting your departure times and things like that. Searching for addresses is straightforward, so you can search by GPS coordinates, so latitude first, longitude second. You can search by point of interest icons. You can search for other things, so searching for Timmy Ho's, so Tim Hortons. You see what's available there. And here you can see a ton of different options available. So let's choose one that's a little bit further away. You can see there, you've now got some route options. So if there were different ways that you could get to the end destination, it's just that these are going to be the quickest routes. Yeah, so that's just going to be the only route available that would make sense. And then you can just hit start.
The route is being calculated.
There you go.
Now turn right.
So you can see that information there, but one cool thing is that if your Mercedes has the head-up display, you'd be able to see your turn-by-turn directions right inside of the display, and then even through the cluster screen. So you've got the option of moving up or down using this pad here, but moving down, you've got your full map and cluster view there too. So you can see your turn-by-turn directions a few different ways, just depending on how you have your vehicle spec'd out. And then you can hit this in order to be able to close, expand into all the turns that you need to make. You could hit this to mute out all of your notifications. If you don't want those turn-by-turn notifications, you can hit this again if you wanted to cancel out the route completely, or if you wanted to look at other destinations. So maybe you wanted to go and get gas. Let's go ahead and search, see what's available. And we've got some options here, so you can either add it or replace it. So adding it means we're adding it as a stop versus replacing as we're going to fully replace the route instead. So we've now got two different places that we're going. So we've got our gas station that we're going to stop at first, and then after we get to the gas station, we're going to turn back in order to get to the Tim Hortons. And then you can hit the X icon along the very top in order to cancel out your route. You can hit the search box again to look at all of your previous destinations. If you hit the little three icons here, you can delete just the individual entry or everything, so all of your previous search for addresses. So just from a general safety perspective, it might be useful to do that. If you've got favorites set up, that would be available. One of the big benefits here is that if you've got a favorite set up, you hit the voice command prompt, you'd be able to say navigate home, navigate to work, or any of the other favorites, and it'll create a route to those destinations instead. And back. Pinch to zoom capabilities there. You could also kind of do a little drag around if you wanted to change up the heading there. You could adjust your heading this way instead, but the 3D heading looks great. And then recenter. If you're just kind of moving around, center would bring it back to you if you'd like. You can connect the device from there, but that's using factory navigation. Only other thing to point out is that you could use it with or without a profile. So you've got the flexibility of adjusting out user profiles. One of the benefits there is that it's going to remember all of your previously searched for addresses if you've got different things set up for presets, phones that have been connected and things like that. But you could use factory navigation without a user profile logged in. You can delete all of your data. So if you've been using the maps on the vehicle, you can delete all of the information there. Hopping back home brings you up to this icon now, the icon tray, and that gives you a bunch of options. So apps gives you a few basic things, including some games. So if you're just waiting to pick somebody up, hoping to kill some time, you'd have the flexibility of playing games right through the screen here if you'd like, and just other basic apps, so weather apps and things like that. App Store is available here too, and that's going to give you the flexibility of downloading different apps, so just depending on what's available. This is where you can get into some additional subscription products, so that is available there. Takes a minute to load up. And then some comfort settings. So you've got some seat settings and ambient light. So with your kinetics, you've got the flexibility of adjusting out. Do you want your backrest going, your seat service, and how long do you want that option to go for? There are some additional heating settings and then automatic seat positioning. So you could easily adjust the seat. Adjusting the seat is done just along the driver's side door for this side. It's an interesting touch the way that it works. I actually kind of love it. So you can slide forwards and backwards, things like that. There's seat memory that's available here as well, with the option for heated and then ventilated first row seats, just depending on how you have it built out. So you can adjust your seats that way, but you'd also have the flexibility of adjusting in. So you put in your height and then the vehicle can automatically adjust the seat and the steering wheel for your ideal height. It's kind of neat. And then with your ambient light, there are a series of different options available. So you can change it out if you wanted an individual color. So you can kind of lightly see it there. It looks really good later on at night. So you'd have the flexibility to customize it and make that your own. And then multicolor is going to give you a series of different looks. So you've got multiple color schemes that are available. Again, later on at night, looks really good. You can adjust the brightness. You can change up effects as well. So it looks different as you get into the vehicle when you go to lock, things like that. From here, next up is going to be adding in a phone. So as of right now, no phones are connected, and we're going to start off on the iPhone side of things. So on your phone, you're just going to go into your Bluetooth settings, connect a device here, and we're waiting for iPhone 14 Pro to show up, or whatever your phone name is there. There we go. PIN numbers match up, so let's go ahead and pair. Do you want to allow contacts and favorites to sync up? This is not my car, so I'm going to say no to that one. And you can stop here, so you'd be able to make phone calls, and then you could also do things like stream audio right through the screen here. But one of the nice things about being on iPhones is that you do have wireless CarPlay inside of the ride. It is backwards compatible, so if you wanted to, you could hook up over USB if you'd like to, so USB-C, Lightning, etc. And then we've got the option for wireless, so you're just going to hit use CarPlay, OK, start CarPlay, and it's going to take a few seconds there, and look at that. We are now fully connected to the ride. So you've got your CarPlay set up here. And this is as full screen as CarPlay is going to get. So you'll always have your climate control settings at the bottom of the screen. But on CarPlay, you've got your little home screen here. So this essentially is the home screen. You've always got your map that was open last. You've got your search box, and then you've also got podcasts or any sort of music that you might be listening to. You can hit the icon here either to get to the icon view or home screen, but you can also swipe across if you'd like. You can see which map was open last, which audio application was open last, which miscellaneous application was open last, your connection levels, as well as your battery level. Then you can swipe across to get to different options. You've got Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze that are available inside of the screen here. Downside to Apple CarPlay is that there's no pinch to zoom capabilities in any of the map applications, so no options there at all. But my favorite map application to use is Waze, and big reason why, as you start to drive, you can see if there's any sort of traffic that's there, if there are speed traps that are set up, so if you see that there are cops there, people are pretty good at marking those off, and you can mark them off yourself. So if you see that there's a speed trap, if there's a crash, hazards on the highway, things like that, you'd have that flexibility. Zooming in and out is just done this way, straightforward. But yeah, like I said, Waze is my go-to app for maps when I'm using Apple CarPlay. You can't play videos through Apple CarPlay either. You can customize the layout a little bit though, so you can adjust out your wallpaper. So if you wanted to change it up to be more suited for you, you could put it into driving focus mode, showing album art when you're listening to audio and things like that. So fairly straightforward. You've got Live One, which is a radio app, Hoopla, which is a library app. You can listen to podcasts and things like that right through this screen too. And on the steering wheel, if you hit the voice command prompt, so a light button push is going to be the command prompt for the vehicle. But if you do a long button push and hold, that's going to be your phone assistant instead. So short button push is the assistant for the Mercedes system. Long button push is your Siri assistant. And then you've got the flexibility of tweaking out the layout of these icons a tiny little bit. So what you're going to do on your phone is go into Settings, General, CarPlay. You're going to find your vehicle. You can forget it, but what we want to do is customize. So let's say if you're not a fan of certain things, or maybe if you love audiobooks on top and you also want Waze up there as well, you can adjust it out. Anything with a minus next to it, you can hit minus and then delete, and that actually removes it from the screen. It saves it at the bottom of the phone, so you can add it back in if you'd like to. But if you've played around with this too much and you don't like what you've done, along the top right side of the phone, there's a reset option. So you're just going to go reset, reset, and then that's going to bring you back to the factory default screen there instead. So that basic icon layout. Straightforward. If you hit the home icon here, then you could tap here. If you wanted to get back into CarPlay, you could hit that. You could play your audio that's on your phone, but hitting CarPlay brings you back into the CarPlay screen, go back this way, and then hopping back to your home screen there instead. Then if you go into your phone, you could hit the little settings icon along the very bottom in order to get to your connected devices. So we can see here that we're currently connected to the iPhone. You can hit this if you wanted to delete the device. So we're connecting back over through the phone here instead. There we go. Clicking back through brings you back just to your phone itself. Hitting the icon here again is going to bring you back to this screen. So we're strictly going to be making phone calls, but you can hook back up to audio again if you'd like to, or connect a new device. But that's how you set up Apple devices inside of this Mercedes screen. Setting up Android devices is the exact same process. So if you weren't on the screen, all you would do, push and hold on your phone again there. If you had a phone connected, we're just going to devices there. We're back on this screen. So just going to go ahead, connect a new device. And then on your phone, we're just waiting for, there we go, S9 Plus to show up. Or again, whatever your phone name is, PIN numbers here match up, and we're going ahead. So as of right now, I'm now connected. I can allow access to my messages and my contacts. This is not my car, so I'm going to say no to that one. But you do have wireless Android Auto. Same thing, you could connect over USB if you'd like to, but you do have wireless available. So let's just go ahead and start. Do I want to allow access to my messages and my contacts? This is not my car, so I'm definitely saying no to that one. But we are just about connected. On the phone here, we have one more option, and we're connected through. Love it. One thing I like about Android Auto is that you do have full pinch to zoom capabilities with your map. You can hit the icon here if you wanted to do things like change it up to satellite view, 3D builds, look at some different route options to avoid highways, toll roads, ferries, things like that. You can mute out notifications. And then along the very bottom, so we've got this little split screen here, but along the bottom, you can hit this in order to get to a little icon view. Now, if your Android device has Waze installed, but Waze is not showing up, check down in the description of this video for a little walkthrough on how you can add Waze and other Android apps to the device here. But going back, you can hit this icon to get to a little split screen again. You can hit here in order to be able to activate your Google Assistant. And then you can also do a long button push and hold on the steering wheel in order to activate your Google Assistant that way. You can hit this in order to go to a fuller screen map. So again, same thing, the climate is always going to be there, but you've got nice move around capabilities, pinch to zoom, etc. And then you can easily recenter. You can hit this in order to get back to your little split screen here again, where you've got some basic apps along with your connection and then your battery level too. Then back on the icon view, you've got the flexibility of adjusting this out a tiny little bit. So on your device, all you're going to do is search for Android Auto. You're going to go into Android Auto settings, and once you're there, you've got options, but we're looking for customized launcher. So similar to the iPhone side, if you wanted to move things around in order to customize them a little bit, you've got the flexibility to do it, but it's not dynamic the same way it was on the iPhone side of things. So if you want any of these changes to come into effect, what you need to do, go onto your home screen, your phone here, going to go into your settings, devices, and then you've got the two phones that have been connected. But what you're going to do is disconnect from Android Auto. You're going to then reconnect to Android Auto. So it'll take a second, launching back into our icon view there. You can see that the changes that we've made have now come into effect. So it's not dynamic the same way it was on the iPhone side of things, but you still got some flexibility there. Hitting the icon here again, going back into our devices, you've got both phones that have been connected. You could do a little mix and match. So you can either be hooked up to Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, not both, but you can do a mix and match of these four. So if you wanted one phone to be connected for phone calls, one phone connected for media, you can kind of do a mix and match this way. You hit the little three dots and then you can easily delete a device. So delete and delete. And let's delete this one as well. And a few seconds in and we're set to go. But that's how you set up Android and iPhone devices inside of this Mercedes screen. And hopping back home into our icon setup, next up is going to be radio. So you can see here, you've got all of your favorited stations. You've got SiriusXM available there, AM, FM, so you can easily move into different sources this way if you'd like to. And then you could mute out audio by just pushing the mute button in along the very bottom, or you could turn off the display or the system, but I'll explain all of those bottom buttons in just a minute here. But you can see there, we've got the current artist along the very bottom. You can search, you can see what other stations are available for SiriusXM. If you wanted to search, if you're a big fan of sports, news, talk, etc., you can easily search this way. And then I like it because it kind of breaks it in to FM or AM stations here as well. And when you're on this screen, you can see you've got the star icon there. So those are going to be all of your stations. So if you wanted to, you could go through and you can hit the little star icon in order to save or remove different stations from your favorite list. So you've got all of your favorited stations that we've set up this way. Searching again or looking at all of the available station options. I like it. You can easily delete entry. You can edit the entry there as well. So if you wanted to be able to adjust all of your presets, change things out, you wanted to delete certain things, you'd have the flexibility to do it. And if we hop back again, so we're back on SiriusXM, if you're a fan of the artist or the song, you'd have the flexibility of being able to get notifications here. So you hit the little notification icon, and then if either the song or the artist comes on, so on any SiriusXM station, you'd then get a notification letting you know that that song or that artist is playing. You can start over. You've got a series of different sound settings that are available. So you could change it to pure versus 3D, so more immersive audio experience. You've got your treble, mid-range, and bass, which are all maxed out. I definitely don't recommend this one. So the setup here, I just picked this press car up. So treble up a few points, mid cranked, bass up a few points is going to give you pretty good audio. But what I'd recommend is listen to one of your favorite songs. And while you're listening to that song, I want you to adjust these out until it sounds perfect for your ears. You can adjust your balance and fade, so if you wanted it rear focused, front focused, whatever the case may be, or recenter it back to the middle. Sound focused, you want it focused on people in the back, the front, etc., or you can tap in order to optimize it for all seats. And then SiriusXM, you've got your basic listening settings and then basic system information and things like that. And then through the steering wheel here, you can also use this little trackpad along the right side in order to be able to move between different stations. So this essentially works as a little trackpad. So you can move up, down, move across, mark things out. You've got a basic back button there. You've got your home button as well. So it's kind of neat the way that all of these work. And there's also a volume rocker, so you can slide up or down to adjust your volume. But if you want to walk through on the steering wheel buttons, the cluster screen as well, check down in the description of this video. So next up is going to be media. So as of right now, we don't have either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay connected. There are no Bluetooth devices, but if your phones were connected, that would show up as an available option. But we've also got USB. So as of right now, I've got all of these options here. Now, one cool thing is that you've got full USB video playback available inside of the ride. You could drop down into a smaller view, back to a full view there instead. So one thing is that it's good when you're parked, because the second you shift out, you can see there, it's going to turn it off, but it's going to bring it right back on again. So I love that you've got full video playback available here. Not every video source or video type is available, but you've got a boatload of different options that are available here instead. So if you wanted to listen to audio, if you wanted to watch video through a USB stick, you'd have the flexibility to do it. You could search, you could go this way in order to look at all of the available songs, artists, etc. that are on the USB stick. You can hit this in order to be able to add things to favorites or get back into all of your available audio settings instead. So media, I love that flexibility. I love that you can actually watch video right through the screen as well. You've got a series of settings that are available. I'm actually going to dive into this one last because it's pretty robust. There's an off-road mode available. So the off-road mode is not standard inside of the ride. It's available optionally, but you can see a series of different options that are available. So your tire pressure, your global positioning, and things like that. So you can adjust these out a little bit. You can also see your vehicle pitch and roll, so you can see which direction the vehicle's facing, your current location as well this way, your elevation, and then you've got a series of buttons down here. So you can hit this in order to get to this transparent hood mode. So as you go to drive, you can even see the tires that are rotating as you go. Where this comes into play is if you're going off-road and you're going over bumps, so there's obstacles and things like that, because you can see what's in front of you. You've got your park sensing system, your brake controls. There's also manual mode there instead. You could raise or lower the vehicle this way. Again, useful if you're going off-road, and then toggling your traction control system on or off as well. Swiping across, there's also an available hybrid mode, and the hybrid screen gives you a lot of different options. So you've got your different charging programs, so you can have it set for charging at home or at work. Where this comes into play is that you can have the charging cable lock or unlock when you're charged up at these specific locations. You can have it charge based off of a specific location as well. So where the charging programs come into play is when we look at this. So your departure time. Where this comes into play is, let's say, if we want to edit this out. If you know you're going to leave at certain times during the week, so let's say every morning at 7:30 in the morning, Monday to Friday, you tend to leave. You could set your departure time. So we've got our departure time set up. You could also enter in a charging pause. So where this comes into play, let's say if you're going to be plugged in at home and you know from, I don't know, maybe 10 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock at night, those are the most expensive electricity rates. So you don't want to charge up during those times. By setting this charge window, that means that from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m., the vehicle is not going to charge at all. So useful if you want to save on electricity rates, but you can easily delete it if you'd like to, or just temporarily toggle it off instead. But I'd personally just recommend just keep yourself charging up, but that's a matter of preference. You can also open up the charging flap from the inside of the vehicle here. You can't close it, so don't tap that unless you want to get outside. And next up, you've got energy flow. So as you're driving, you might notice that the engine is shooting power back to the battery in order to charge it up. Because inside of the hybrid, you can charge 3 different ways. Number 1 is by actually plugging yourself into the wall. Number 2 is as you drive, you'll notice that the energy moves from here into the battery in order to charge you up. And then way number 3 is through regenerative braking. So as you go to drive, you hit the brake and the vehicle is going to slightly charge the vehicle up. You can actually see what's going on there inside of the cluster screen. There's basic information for your vehicle. So you've got your hybrid option there, your accelerator versus your brake power that you're using, along with your vehicle pitch and roll. And then there are basics for your engine. So you can see what torque you're using, your power, your boost gauges, and things like that. So if you're a bigger fan of looking at these performance gauges, you'd have the flexibility of doing it as you drive through that hybrid screen. Back here with your devices, if you had multiple devices connected, those would show up. And then there's an available web browser where you'd be able to look at YouTube and then other things right through the screen here instead. And then the big one is going to be all of the available settings, and there are so many different things that are available. You might have additional options or not the same options, just depending on how you have this vehicle built out. But with driving, you've got your Eco Assist, so if you want to get the best possible economy. There's basics for collision avoidance, so brake assist. If you're going to get into an accident, it can automatically brake for you. And when do you want it to brake? So it essentially reduces the likelihood of an accident happening. Your blind spot system, so you can see there, toggles it off, on, etc. But if somebody enters the blind spot on either side of the vehicle, it's going to let you know. So it's going to highlight in your side view mirrors, letting you know that somebody's there. See, with attention assist, if you start to veer over too many times without signaling, eventually it's going to tell you that you should probably take a break. If you don't like that one, just turn it off. You've got that flexibility, but distance trips, that actually is a pretty useful setting to keep enabled. For your camera, you can open the cover for the back end there. For parking, when you actually go to park, so when you're in reverse, if there were spots that were available, it would show you there, let you know what spots are available as you go. There are warning tones that are available. So it's essentially going to be the volume for these different tones. Do you want your audio to fade out? So if you have warnings coming up, so that beeping that you get as you get closer to obstacles, if you've got music playing, it's going to lower it. And it's the same way when you're in reverse. So if you just want to be able to focus on reversing, you can have that happen. And there's basics for move assist and things like that. There's nothing overly exciting there. Cross traffic alert, as you go to back up, if somebody's coming perpendicular, it can let you know of a potential collision. That's the basics there for your vehicle. Manual shift, you can toggle that on here as well. You can control manual shift mode just using the paddles instead. You don't actually have to be in manual mode there. There are different trailer types available. Nothing exciting there. If you're towing, the towing capacity is not that big inside this vehicle, but you do have that available as an option. Easy entry exit is available for both the steering wheel as well as for the seat. And then with these settings enabled, when you go to turn the vehicle off, with the steering wheel position, it's essentially going to push the steering wheel back, and then it'll also slide the seat back in order for you to get in and out of the vehicle a little bit easier. You do have the option of setting your seat up with memory. So regardless, when you've got this set up, and then you turn the vehicle on, it's essentially going to reset you to whatever your currently set position is. And then you can also tap either 1, 2, or 3 for this, for the steering wheel, for your seat, and then for your side view mirror to go back to that perfect position for you. But it's going to default it to whatever it's currently set up to. You can toggle that blind on or off so you can't open. Occupant alert, when you go to turn the vehicle off, it's going to remind you to check the back seats. And then open and close, there's nothing exciting here. Tow away protection, which we saw here. So again, you can get to a few of these things a few different ways. Let's see here. Do you want your mirrors to automatically fold in when you go to lock the vehicle? And then you've got an individual mode. So as you go to adjust out your different drive modes down here, you can have it set up. So when you're in your individual mode, what do you want your drive system to be like? What do you want your steering to be like? Sport versus comfort. And then do you want your stability control to be comfort versus sport instead? So as you move through all of your different drive modes, that's going to cause the engine to potentially come on, but you can see here there are different modes. So there's different drive programs that are available. Your electric mode is specifically that. If there was enough battery power, it would essentially be able to run in strictly electric mode instead. And then you've got, you saw there, a series of different options. Sport mode holds onto the RPMs a little bit longer to give you a sportier performance, or that available individual mode here instead. From here, basic options for lights, nothing overly exciting there. Interior lighting, do you want that light on delay to happen? So when you go to lock the vehicle, do your lamps turn off right away or do they turn off gradually? Your exterior lights, when you go to lock the vehicle, do they stay on for up to 60 seconds? Or when you go to hit lock, do they just turn off right away? And then ambient light, which we've seen, and you've got the flexibility of adjusting the color scheme here or choosing a multicolor effect instead. So again, you'll see a lot of these things duplicated a few different spots. Let's see here. With your display, you can adjust the brightness of not only the central display here, but also for the cluster screen. So if you want it brighter, darker, etc., for both displays, you'd have that flexibility. You can toggle the display off. So if you wanted to toggle the whole system display off, so if we did this, turns it off completely. Your home screen, there are a few different home screen layouts that are available here too. So if we hop back home for a second, you can see there, very different design look compared to if we were to hop back into our settings again. Yeah, I'm not crazy about this one. The icon view actually is kind of neat there. I am personally a bigger fan though of this look instead. But that one's going to come, yeah, look at these big bright buttons. So that's going to come down to a matter of preference. Do you kind of want like a no frills option there? Do you want more of like that old school style swipe instead? You'd have that option. Measurement units. Do you want to be in either kilometers or miles? And when you adjust that out, you'll see that change inside of the cluster screen. And that's just one of the big benefits of having a fully digital screen. You can easily adjust this out. Do you want an additional speedometer there? So you can see that it is in miles per hour up the top there, but because this is a Canadian spec vehicle, so you've got the flexibility of adjusting out. Different languages are available. So do you want Dutch, English, Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese? There are a boatload of options. And then keyboard, nothing exciting with the keyboard there. Elements, so your touch control, how sensitive do you want it to be? Do you want to get feedback? So hold on. So you can get no feedback, so no button beep versus normal or a loud option. Let's see, your audio. Parktronic, so you can set your current tone. So as you get closer to obstacles, how loud do you want that to be? How loud do you want your phone call volume or your ringtone volume to be? Your voices, you can also set all of these up. So you're essentially setting everything into a unique option here instead. Internet and Bluetooth, you've got a wireless hotspot that's available. You can toggle Wi-Fi off or Bluetooth off completely. So if you never want to be able to connect a phone, you could adjust it this way. There's some data protection options. The big one here is system pin. So with this pin set up, the screen essentially comes locked out so people can't just look through all of your individual settings. You can also change up permissions here as well. And then one cool thing, so down the middle here, you've got this little fingerprint scanner. So you do have biometrics that are available here. So you can essentially lock this out to your individual fingerprint instead if you wanted to. And then got some basics so you can adjust out your date and time. You're in the auto mode here, but let's say if you live somewhere where you straddle a time zone and it constantly flips you from one time zone to the other, you can permanently lock it out to any of these other options instead. You can set the format here for your date. You can adjust the time out plus or minus a few minutes. Do you want to adjust out for automatic daylight savings time? Do you want to toggle it on or off yourself manually? You can see if there are any software updates available, and then you can do a soft reboot. So if the screen's giving you problems, you can just do a soft reboot instead to essentially clear the cache out. That should solve the majority of issues that you might be facing. There are some basic app options that are available, series of different info settings. So there's a digital operator's manual, so digital owner's manual. If you're getting weird messages inside of the cluster screen, things like that, you've got the option of selecting and moving through this to see what's going on. If you want to know your fuel economy, your oil, when you should be changing your oil out and things like that, that's available. Some basic system information to see what you're currently running, and basic legal information, nothing exciting there. So I know that there's a lot of information here. The other thing to point out, going to be just along the bottom of the screen. So you've got your dynamic selector switch. So again, changing between all of the different drive modes that are available. There's a button here for your camera. So you can see camera front view versus rear wide view. You can see individual side mounted camera views here as well. You can see an auto mode. Look at that. That looks so cool. And then you could also adjust out to different camera modes by swiping across this way. I love how it picks everything up. Like there's a bunch of snow outside, it's picked that up right inside of the screen here as well. And then back. From here, there's a button for your charging. So hot button press in order to get to all of these different charge options. One thing I didn't point out is that with fast charging is not standard inside of this ride, so that DC supercharging is available as an option. You've got some basic options for your functions. So hot button press there, your four-way blinkers, your biometric scanner there. You can toggle the display off there as well, so toggle the whole system off or just the display instead. You can mute out your audio that way, and then you've also got your volume rocker this way instead. So I know that that is a lot of information, but that's everything you need to know about the infotainment system inside of the Mercedes GLC 350e.